We begin with a story so extraordinary, it forces Nigerians to ask not simply who may have committed an offense, but how an entire system could have allowed it to happen. This week, the presidency found itself responding to allegations surrounding what it says was a fictitious government body known as the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council. Presidential spokesman Bayo Onanuga says the office was fake, that the individual at the center of the matter, Adeniyi Adeyemi, has been arrested, and that criminal proceedings are now before the courts. But the legal proceedings do not extinguish the broader public interest questions. In fact, they make those questions even more urgent, because if the official position is that this organization did not legally exist, then Nigerians are entitled to ask, how was it able to function for so long within the machinery of government? How could an entity now described as fictitious operate from the Federal Secretariat? How was it able to communicate with public institutions? How did it acquire the appearance of official recognition? And perhaps most remarkably, how did provisions associated with it find their way into the federal appropriations process? Those questions do not presume guilt against anyone. They are questions about systems, not merely individuals. They also raise difficult issues for multiple institutions. If public funds were appropriated in relation to an office whose legal status is now disputed, what does that say about budget scrutiny? What does it say about administrative oversight? What safeguards failed, and where should responsibility ultimately lie? Well, beyond the criminal prosecution itself, there are now growing calls from some quarters for wider administrative inquiries into how such events could occur and whether existing oversight mechanisms inside government remain fit for purpose. President Tinubu has repeatedly pledged to confront corruption and strengthen institutions. Many Nigerians will now judge that commitment not by speeches, but by whether this controversy is investigated thoroughly, transparently, and wherever the evidence leads. Because in a democracy, accountability does not begin when a conviction is secured. Accountability begins the moment legitimate questions are asked and the government is willing to answer them. Well, for their assessment of this story and the other developments in the week that was, I'm joined now in the studio by three guest analysts. Dr. Umar Yakubu is the Executive Director of the Center for Fiscal Transparency and Public Integrity and is also a public policy analyst. Dr. Taofiq Raimi is a development expert and economic analyst and is a member of the ruling APC party, as well as the Tinubu Support Group. And Mazi Nnamdi Dixon Ireogbu is a public affairs analyst and aspirant for the House of Representatives under the banner of the opposition, NDC. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Let me come to you first, Dr. Yakubu. Thank you for joining us. From your perch as the Executive Director of the Center for Fiscal Transparency and Public Integrity, you deal with a lot of issues around the stink of corruption. How much does this unfolding story of a fictitious office operating under the name of the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council raise a red alert for you?
Well, thank you for inviting me, Charles, and I liked your intro because for the first time since this scandal came about, people have been focusing on the person, that's the prince or whatever, but they are not looking at the accountability system and mechanism, what we have been saying that it has been too weak. And in your intro, you mentioned all the problems. Now we have several councils, National Examination Council, National Shippers Council, all the councils, you find out that they have enabling legal frameworks backing them. Now, nobody has been able to tell you the legal framework backing this particular council. And the funny name is Presidential Intervention something. Even the name is very funny and problematic if you look at the name. Intervention in what exactly? But now let's assume that it even exists in law.
Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council.
Promotion of what exactly?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're right, but continue, please.
Yes, sir.
So sounds bizarre, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. So now let's assume that we'll listen to their argument. They maybe manufacture one legal framework now, and what they will tell you is an executive order and start burying it under some, nuances there, here and there. But let's assume it even exists now. Now, you are talking about promotion of investments. You have the Minister of Foreign Affairs. You have the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. You have the NEBZA, Nigeria Export Promotion Zone. You have the Nexim Bank. You already have enough agencies that are dealing with promotion of international trade, international investments, and all of that. Now, what mechanism did they need? Don't worry, what mechanism or what tool or what led them to think about how they will establish this kind of council now? I've not seen any data to support, okay, well, we need a presidential foreign intervention promotion council or whatever name it believes. Because these agencies are already doing all their work. But you now came and now established a council to, let's say, promote. I'm assuming it's for promotion of foreign investment. I'm just assuming. Now, assuming that's the reason for foreign investment, these people do not understand that capital chases investment, not the other way around. That's why you can see presidents running around, governors running around all the time, but where are the investments coming? Well, all over the world, you will see a lot of capital looking for where investments would lie. But these are not happening because we have not, fixed our system for the investors to come. So now, to the second layer about accountability mechanisms. Assuming whether it was established or not, how do you establish an agency, get funding, 1.2 billion or so, whatever the amount is, it even has a budget of 20-something billion, open an account with the central bank, meaning payments...
Several accounts.
Meaning payments have come from the Accountant General of the office, meaning the Auditor General of the Federation has access, all these accountability mechanisms.
Budgets approved at the National Assembly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then for the presidency to now come and expose its lapses, it now came and issued a statement that was just bringing out all these lapses, meaning they do not check all these things. So these are the problems of what we're talking about, and these things need to be fixed. Because right now, just one more point, assuming they jail this person, what happens to the other ones that we're not aware of? There are so many of them. And what happens to all the spending that nobody is just checking? Lastly, again, the National Assembly just needs to live up to its responsibility.
Okay, thank you for that. Let me come to you, Mazin Namdi Dixon Ireogbu. If the presidency says this office did not legally exist, how could an organization function within government to the extent that it appeared to interact with ministries and public institutions? What does that say about the strength or weakness of governance systems? And let's be, fairly reserved with our language, because I know you're chomping at the bit, being an opposition member. Let's just assess this reasonably, and
it's an unreasonable situation. So it just tells that it seems like Nigeria is running an Oluwale system of government.
What does that mean?
It's a Yahoo system of government, because if not, the chief of staff to the president has been linked to this. And over how many days, weeks, and all of that, because this didn't just start now. As far back as October, this case had been in the public domain. And the chief of staff was said to have written to exonerate himself and all of that story and all that. And he's still sitting in there up till now. So first, the position of my party, the NDC, is that by now, the chief of staff to the president ought to have been sacked, and sacked immediately, so that at least by every means possible, investigation will be carried out without any semblance of bias. So it's just unfortunate that we have gotten ourselves here, Charles. I made a movie that gave me the first armor in 2005 titled The Mayors. It was about scenarios like this where people feigned or claimed to be government officials and from such office, extort foreigners and all of that in the name of having access to the powers that be. The movie is just about playing out again. It's just like in the movies. It's sad. And I expected the president by now to have taken a firm position to, at least if you say you're fighting corruption and this one is closer home, your chief of staff is directly linked to this. This person has office in the Federal Secretariat and has been functioning for a while now. And somebody is trying to say, oh, it's a fake agency. How is that? If it's a fake agency, are we running a fake government? These are issues that, we now need to interrogate seriously because, honestly, this does not speak well for our country. It just exposes how the APC government led by Tinubu is all about how that they can milk the system and not, promote the common interest that they ought to be promoting sincerely.
Right. Okay.
So it's unfortunate that we found ourselves here.
Yeah. Let me turn to you, Dr. Raimi, because you are a member of the APC, although you're not in the government. So, I mean, I don't know what sort of defense you can put forth. But, I mean, is this simply an alleged case of fraud by an individual in your assessment based on what you know, or does it expose something much deeper about institutional controls inside the APC Tinubu government?
Okay, thank you, Charles, for having me. And let me say categorically that this issue is still an allegation by the person who claimed to...
No, we're not talking about... Sorry to interrupt you. It has gone beyond being an allegation. Because the government, the presidency has admitted that such a thing had been happening. The issue of allegation is whether, to what extent the chief of staff is involved or connected to it or not. But the fact is that a fake organization existed and was basically had the budget appropriated to it,
1.3 billion
passed by the National Assembly, recruited staff and all the rest of it. That's the issue. So it's gone beyond that point of allegation.
There are various issues to this matter, and you allow me to make this case.
But I wanted to just check the point you were trying to make initially. Because that's people would see that as a way to try and slip out.
No, we are not slipping out at all. Charles, I can assure you, there's no slipping out. We are going to lay the point, not the emotion. When this matter came up in October last year, you will recall that this matter, Nigeria have institutions that I still believe they are working. They are working. We should not demonize our institution of government, particularly under this current president, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Why did I say so? In October, when this matter came up, the Federal Ministry of Finance, the Federal Ministry, the Foreign Affairs Ministry, discovered that there is an agency like that, and then alerted, the chief of staff, because he was the person. That's why I said it was an allegation at that point. He was alleging that he got an appointment for this particular position. So the chief of staff took the right decision, immediately requested, and first of all, he said he had nothing to do with it. He immediately asked the Office of the National Security Advisor and the DSS to investigate the man and whoever is connected. At that particular point, the system was working. Even beyond that, the police also came into the matter, and they went and investigated and found out that the so-called organization is fake. The fact that you see the man hobnobbing with government functionaries are not sufficient to thinking that maybe our system had failed.
Let me tell you, Charles. I don't mean to interrupt you again. It is sufficient. And if it does not raise red flags for you, then I worry about the state of this country. And I'm not saying that to you in particular. I am raising specific concern. How can a fake organization be able to get a offices in the Federal Secretariat, have its budget approved in the National Assembly. I mean, open bank accounts in the central bank. How is that possible?
The nature of sophisticated crime and criminality across the world can be so tight that certain times you want to wonder how certain things happen. Let me give you a quick example.
Yeah, but it raises two questions.
I know.
It raises a question about America, how this could have happened in your government.
No, in America where we are.
No, we're not talking about America. We're talking about Nigeria.
Let me give you an example. On October, all of us were alive when the incident of 9/11 happened. The 9/11, why don't you say, oh, why did this happen in America?
No, let me tell you. Those are two totally different things.
You see,
look, I'm afraid I can't. I mean, this is preposterous. You don't really have a response. Let me come to you.
I do.
Professor, Dr. Yakubu. What worries you more? I mean, listening to Dr. Taoufik there, the allegations themselves, or the possibility that no one inside the system appears to have detected the warning signs that appear to have been so glaring?
Yes, sir. Thank you. What worries me the most is the weakness of the accountability mechanisms, that you can have a fake agency situated right in the Federal Secretariat. I definitely want to believe he even moves with policemen, meaning he's provided security by the state. He draws funds from the state. Now that 1.2 billion could have been 12 billion, could have been 20 billion. Now the amount doesn't matter because the mechanism is so porous. Now, if you reported last year that there is a fake agency, where is he now? What has happened to him? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
To be fair, he's been charged to court, but he's out on bail.
Yes.
If Mr. Charles, you open a government office tomorrow in the middle of Abuja, by next week you'll be in jail, I'm telling you.
Well, you ought to be in jail.
You ought to be in jail. But the reason why we could assume, even if we don't have the evidence right way, why it's taking time is there's likely political interference or some political interest. That is why it is not happening. And we need to really look at these things because, like I said, 1.2 billion could have been 12 billion, could have been 20 billion. And now when you have about 7-8 federal agencies all not being able to detect a fake agency to raise the red flag. On the other side, you have the National Assembly sending letters back and forth to that same agency, and somebody is coming to tell us it is fake. Please, I think we need to...
And these are people who have oversight functions.
Exactly.
Well, what is the point of oversight if you can't detect something that is, I mean, clearly raising a red flag? Let me come to you, Mazi Dixon. The matter, as we said, is now before the court, so the criminal issues will be determined legally. But the existence of a court case does not prevent the presidency from ordering wider administrative investigations into how this happened.
I agree. And that's why I said, first, the office of the the chief of staff to the president has been linked to this. First, in fact, the story out there is that this fellow purchased this appointment. I think they said it was linked about 600 million. And 400 million was paid, balance 200 million. Yeah. The guy who linked
those are the allegations.
The allegations. Yeah. The guy who linked him to this.
I mean,
getting this.
I don't want to get into all kinds of allegations.
At least let's even bring it to the fore.
What you mean, but those are allegations at this point.
Yes.
The key thing is what Dr. Yakubu is raising, which is the institutional failure.
The failure
to detect these.
The 10th Assembly, ab initio, compromised itself, became more like a branch of the executive arm. And that is why the oversight function thing is nowhere to be found. The 10th Assembly has failed woefully in that direction. We even have letters from the Senate to this fellow, to this agency, from the Green Chamber to this fellow, and all of that. So if the National Assembly, like you rightly stated, that ought to do the oversight function, you know, was caught napping, sleeping, on duty. Well, that's where we have found ourselves. And my brother here, the APC, my colleague here, it's unfortunate.
Dr. Raimi.
Yes, it's unfortunate that we don't even know where to draw the line. Moments like this, what we should put forward is Nigeria. The image of our nation is what is important here, not your political party.
I agree.
So I expected that he will even, first of all, frown seriously at this, and to imagine that it is under their watch that this is happening. You are looking for excuses linking us to America and looking for 9/11 narrative and all of that. This is terrible. And the government, the president ought to, by now, sack the chief of staff, who has been linked. This is not the first one. He has been linked to various.
He can be suspended while an investigation.
Sack is the issue.
You can't say sack someone.
This is not the first time that the chief of staff has been linked to issues like this.
Anyway, let me.
This is a very terrible thing that is happening.
Because the question is whether there should be responsibility, if any exists, should stop with individuals accused, or should there also be scrutiny of the entire public sort of official system, and looking into who may have approved documents or failed to detect irregularities? I mean, where do you stand definitively on that?
Where I stand is that, first of all, this matter came up last year. It was blown open, and the various relevant agencies have continued to do what they need to do. There is still and that is why the presidency did not even come out about the matter until a few days back, after maybe some internal investigation had been conducted. This president or myself or our party will never support anything that has to do with corruption. But in terms of fighting corruption, you also have to be methodical about it. You do not crucify people except the court had declared them to have committed that offense. In terms of how crime can linger or can permeate, look at FBI even in America. You will notice that sometimes they try to dictate problems. Even 5-10 years crime can take that long. This government has no patience for crime or criminality. That's why in the past you will notice that he has suspended ministers. He has relieved some people from their position. So nobody is coming to anywhere. But you see, people can want to make social media headline. Ultimately, you can win a case under two platforms, either on social media or you win a case in the court. This matter is already before the court, and I believe in the end, we are going to see who and who are complicit. I want to assure you that this administration will not bury anybody. But there are oppositions who want to always antagonize the administration, who want to pull down the functionaries because they actually want to come back.
What you're saying sounds spectacularly
perverse. Yes.
It really does.
No, it could
anyway, look, let's watch and see what happens. Okay. We've got to move on because time is against us. Let's turn to our second topic, the APC versus INEC over candidate lists. The APC has reviewed the outcome of several of its National Assembly primaries, restoring some serving senators who had earlier lost their tickets and replacing candidates who were initially declared winners. But INEC says there is a line political parties cannot cross, and that only candidates who emerge from primaries monitored by the Commission and whose names match the results already uploaded onto its electronic portal will be accepted. Any attempts to submit different names, it insists, will be automatically rejected. Who should have the final word over candidates? The political party that conducted the primaries or INEC that monitored them? And let me come back to you guys and to you, Dr. Yakubu. Has the Electoral Act become significantly stronger in preventing arbitrary substitutions of candidates, or are political parties simply finding new ways around it?
The Electoral Act is actually a very strong law. If you really look at the law in principle, it can get us to have a very strong democracy, strong elections and all of that. But the problem is the lawyers and the parties actually have found ways to be abusing the system just to favor their own political interests. So, and we're in a democracy, and every case we have has to end up at the courts, and that is just what is playing out. Everybody will utilize any loophole possible, you know, to see how it can favor his own party. So what happened today, I think, is a welcome development for the ADC. That's the party that got the judgment today, because the space has been assumed to be constrained to favor the ruling party. I'm a civil society. I'm not for any other party, but we're here to promote democracy. So we're happy.
Well, that judgment was actually yesterday, not today.
Okay, yesterday. Yeah. Thank you for that correction. So I think it's good for democracy to allow participation of all political parties, as long as they meet the minimum requirements. All these little things they hang on to disqualify or prevent other political parties should not be happening. But INEC specifically has to, you know, stand its ground, because most of the time, once it gets a judgment, you can see the urge of INEC rushing.
Right. I think we're getting things a little bit mixed up. The point out, the issue here, which I think he will probably be best placed to address, is that the APC has reviewed the outcome of several of its National Assembly primaries. It's restored some serving senators who had earlier lost their tickets, replacing candidates who were initially declared winners after the primaries. But INEC says there is a line political parties cannot cross, and that only candidates who emerged from primaries monitored by the Commission and whose names match the results already uploaded onto its electronic portal will be accepted. Let me get your response to that very quickly before I come to him, and then we've got to take a break.
It's not just the APC that is affected in this attempt to...
Because you're an aspirant in the NDC.
While the 2026 amended Electoral Act has a lot of wonderful ideas in it, there are lots of flaws too. The aspect of, for instance, insisting that direct primaries, when the system is not conducive enough for that. And we witnessed, for instance, what the APC went first, you know, on the direct primaries thing, and we saw how their direct primaries went, where from 1 you count to 50, from 50 you count to 10,000 and all of that. So indeed, the process was flawed already. So, but the party has every right to internally, you know, present its candidate. After all, the candidates are for the party.
Yeah, but what would be the point of INEC going to monitor the primaries and seeing the results of the primaries and making notes and okay, this is the person
let me tell you,
and uploading it, and then you come and give substitute the
for instance, from the NDC, my state, the Imo state, for instance, right? And I have said it everywhere. There was no primaries. There was none. And what was presented, as far as I'm concerned, was not primaries. So that INEC can wake up and say that, oh, that they witnessed or they were part of the process. For instance, mine happened around 1 a.m.
But that's your own personal issue.
No, not just personal.
The NDC is not saying that there wasn't any
primaries. No, I'm telling you, most aspirants, I'm an aspirant, so I can tell you, and I speak for a lot of other aspirants, there was none. However, we respect the fact that the party position about presenting its candidates is supreme. If the party decides that, whatever happened at the field is not what they are going to upload into the INEC portal, is the business of the party.
Okay,
so
let me come to him
APC
quickly,
doing that,
running out of time.
For me, it's neither here nor there.
Reaction?
In our own case, I thank Dixon for the first time saying the truth that there was no primary.
I have always said the truth. I have always put the interest of the nation
He said NDC, there's no, but in APC, in our own case, we had primaries.
Oh, really?
And yes, we had
that's
primaries.
A lie now.
No. You can't tell me it's a lie. You are the one that just lied plenty.
Make your point.
You know, however, NDC had no primary. APC had primaries, and in fact, we will. I want to commend our own chairman, chairman of our National Working Committee, supported by that's Professor Niwada, who made sure that we had teams that went across Nigeria to conduct the election. Out of all of these elections across 36 states and the FCT, we had only 9 states where we have this issue of substitution.
Right.
And so across all, that means out of 37, if FCT is counted as...
What's your position on what
my position. So our party was able to achieve 76% that are not substituted. Only about 24%. And my position is that it is the party's responsibility to actually nominate their own candidate to INEC.
Okay.
So if there are problems on the feed, we cannot say because certain names were returned before, why do we have internal mechanism to correct them?
Right.
Our party received over 700 petitions, and in the end of the day, we had to resolve them. I believe we will have a explanatory note to INEC to explaining why just about 28 people have been substituted.
I got to take
and
a
I think
break.
we are going to resolve
Thank you for that. Both of you are agreed on one thing, and that's hopeful for Nigeria's democracy. You're watching Arise Prime Time. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our assessment of the week that was. Stay with us. Let's continue our look back at the week that was, because in the courts, the African Democratic Congress, or ADC, secured a significant legal victory, strengthening its new leadership and potentially reshaping the calculations of an opposition coalition already looking towards 2027. Peter Obi, meanwhile, returned to the national conversation with a renewed promise to build a more united Nigeria through education, healthcare, and human capital development. But in a country where division has often proved politically profitable, can unity become a winning political message? And on the security front, the United States announced the withdrawal of most of its troops from Nigeria's Lake Chad region after a major joint counter-terrorism operation, while pledging to continue intelligence cooperation. Is this evidence that Nigeria's security forces are becoming more capable, or simply that modern wars are increasingly won through intelligence rather than boots on the ground? And our guest analysts are still with me in the studio as we continue our assessment of the week that was. And they are Dr. Umar Yakubu, Executive Director of the Center for Fiscal Transparency and Public Integrity, and is also a public policy analyst. Dr. Taufeeq Raimi, a development expert and economic analyst and member of the ruling party, as well as the Tinubu Support Group. And Mazi Nnamdi Dixon Ireogbu, a public affairs analyst and aspirant for the House of Representatives under the banner of the opposition, NDC. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for staying with us. Let's turn to our third topic, which is the major courtroom victory that you kind of jumped the gun the last time and got to. So if you just keep the answer brief. Courtroom victory for the ADC, the removal of one legal obstacle on its road to 2027, and the affirmation of the party's David Mark leadership. Your thoughts on that, briefly?
I think it's a good development for democracy, but we really need to stop having too many issues for the courts to rule. There are too many cases. You find that there are a lot of decisions are done by the courts instead of by the people, but by the system. So INEC has to find ways, to make sure that those things are reduced.
Right. Okay. Thank you, and thanks for keeping it brief. Mazi Nnamdi Ireogbu, does the judgment merely settle an internal party dispute, or does it significantly strengthen one arm of the opposition ahead of 2027?
It encourages all of us to still have hope that somehow some of the mistakes that the judiciary has made, all this while meddling in the political arena and all of that, that they are making moves to correct it. So I congratulate the ADC, and I hope that all of us in the opposition would, have the understanding that we're all endangered here, because this government is looking for coronation. It is not looking for contestation. But we assured the government that there was going to be a contest, and this goes to open up further the political arena for contest.
Right. Okay. Now, Dr. Raimi, you've got a smirk on your face there.
Yeah.
The ADC now appears to have cleared one big legal hurdle. Does it depress you to know that that victory allows it to now focus fully on presenting itself as a credible alternative to your APC government?
Not at all, Charles. It didn't. It has nothing to do with our victory for our president and APC by 2027. In fact, APC is ready for any contestation, any contest with any other political party. But I just want Charles for this opposition political party, ADC, NDC, and all of them as well, to also sing praises of the judiciary when judgment did not go their way. Because today,
that's a valid point.
Because today now, you can see Dixie talking about...
criticizing the judiciary
they are not criticizing because it went their way. And let them also know that... let them also know
that's
that
a good point.
We have hierarchy of courts in Nigeria. If you win at the Federal High Court, there are perhaps Court of Appeal.
Yep.
There's also Supreme
Assuming
Court.
the other
it
people
is not
go
over
on appeal.
for them.
Are you saying you're not done with the destabilization of the
No, we are not.
political
You
parties?
are not the anchor. You are not the anchor. You
Let
are
him
not the
speak,
anchor.
please.
So I think the important point I want to make is that just like I referred to earlier, I was not defending anything corrupt. I was only saying system works and we should have confidence in our system. The judiciary is doing well. They can do better in Nigeria. And so when judgment does not go in our favor,
right,
we should look at it as being meritorious.
Okay.
When judgment goes in our favor, we should also celebrate the judiciary.
I think anybody would see that as a very reasonable point that you've just made.
Thank you.
And thank you for that. Now let's move on to our next topic, which is Peter Obi's recently declared new vision for Nigeria. He's emphasizing national unity as the cornerstone of his policy strategy. Is that message likely to resonate strongly in today's Nigeria?
Well, I didn't listen to what he said, but he's talking about national unity. We usually hear all these rhetorics from most of these politicians. They will tell you what we need, but they don't tell you the how they are going to enforce national unity. So if somebody is talking about national unity...
Well, I don't think he said enforce, but I think he's talking about a policy, about getting people to... I mean, I don't speak for him, but sorry, go on.
Policies are easy to make. The house are what matters. You can easily get people to write policies for you. But the strong political will, the competence, and the energy to enforce that policy of the how is what matters.
Absolutely.
If you want national unity, okay, how are you going to force, implement?
You're not going to ram it down people's throats.
Yeah, so that's what I want to hear. That's the kind of things, how they are going to do it. I have not been hearing that from either political candidate at the federal level at least. They have not heard anything regarding national unity.
Right. And that's a reasonable point, isn't it, Mazi Nnamdi Dixon Ireogbu? Because you are an obedient.
Oh, yes.
You're a member of the NDC, and Peter Obi is your presidential candidate.
Yeah.
I mean, he speaks about unity, but Nigerian politics often rewards division and identity. I mean, that's the way a lot of politicians actually move. Can a campaign built around national cohesion actually win elections in Nigeria?
Oh, yes. And since 1999, I have stated that the ticket of Peter Obi and Kwankwaso is about the best ticket.
Did you say 1999?
Yes.
You mean 2023?
Since 1999, that democracy came out.
Yeah, that you've said that Peter... Okay,
that
you mean
ticket,
since that
since
time?
1999,
Okay.
the ticket of Peter Obi...
Since 1999.
No, the ticket of Peter Obi and Kwankwaso is about the best that we have had. Because one, these are people who are clearly, by their antecedents, about the nation. Kwankwaso and Peter Obi's togetherness today, as we have seen, is definitely going to promote that unity. Unlike the reunion party as we have, that is insensitive to the unity of our country. Because, for instance, anybody who thinks that a Muslim ticket is not an aberration in Nigeria is not thinking straight. So clearly, we are going to have, by the body language and all that Peter Obi stands for, it will be about unity, because APC has promoted division,
right? Okay.
And there is a need to call it to a halt urgently.
Well, let's give the not, he's not the spokesman for the APC, but he's a representative of the APC. Let's give him a chance to respond, because vision documents are important, but elections are ultimately won on trust. Has Peter Obi done enough to convince Nigerians he can actually implement what he's proposing?
Okay, that's a very quality question, as always, from Charles. Let me say, like our energetic, enterprising, promising Nigerian Gen Z youth will say, how now, Peter Obi? You say you want to unite Nigeria. You could not even unite members of HABGA, where you are former governor. You could not even unite the leadership of Labour PDP. You ran away. You could not unite Labour Party when you were their presidential candidate. You ran away. How will you do it? You came to ADC. Less than 2 months or 3 months, you have you captured, because even on your program, you said you will continue to move like that.
Oh, yes.
You know, so because his target is just to be on the ballot paper, he has no leadership capacity, skills, and experience to unite Nigeria. Nigeria has 365 ethnic groups. It has diversity, you know, in terms of religion, in terms of background. Peter Obi does not have the temperament. He doesn't have the cognate experience to be able to unite them. If you cannot unite those small organizations, smaller than Nigeria, with 230 million Nigerians, with all this diversity, no one should be sold a dummy and bought it.
Okay, we must move on to our final topic, the U.S. withdrawal of its troops from Nigeria. Does this withdrawal, Dr. Yakubu, reflect growing confidence in Nigeria's military or changing American strategic priorities?
Yeah, thank you. Before I answer that, you know, I'm in the middle of two politicians, and I just want to use
Yeah, it must be very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I noticed you were sweating a bit.
Yes, you can see they think unity is about inclusion of tribes and everybody. That is not how nations are built, and that is why we have problems. If you look at all the countries we like to copy, they develop some common areas of nationalism, of national interest, of things that would develop the country and pull people towards those visions. But we think now, okay, if you now have a system where every tribe is represented, every religion is represented, we now have unity. No, we are not going to have unity. That's not what unity is about. So back to the final question on the withdrawal of the U.S. troops. I think it's a good thing that they came. At least they have supported the country, most especially, I'm sure, in terms of intelligence sharing, they would have given us, because they have superior technology to support Nigeria. But now that they have left, my hope and prayer is that the Nigerian state now is ready to fill in that gap that they have left. Most of the areas where they would have helped is mostly maybe in the intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, because those are the areas, the kinds of terrorism we have, terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, those major ones are things that they are moving in the open. So you need those eyes in the sky to see those things. The second thing we have to, and I don't know why we're shying away from them, all these elements of our insecurity, these 3 or 4 have to do with terrorist financing. So we need to strengthen how we stop the monies from flowing to those terrorist groups, and that needs a lot of cooperation, both internally and with our international partners.
Right. Okay, very good points. And Mazi Dixon, the U.S. says intelligence sharing, one of the points Dr. Yakubu was making, that intelligence sharing will continue. Does modern counter-terrorism depend more on intelligence than on boots on the ground?
Both. It depends. What is important for us is that...
Well, I mean, the Americans are gone, so
yeah,
their boots
but
are
no
no longer on
They
the
didn't
ground.
pull away completely. They still have left.
But I mean, they're
some
saying
of them.
they will give intelligence.
However, what's important for us is that
Yeah.
this should make us realize that nobody will come from elsewhere to solve our insecurity issue in Nigeria. We all have to be involved. Government has to take it seriously and rejig completely its approach. One of the things that I have always frowned against is this government adopting, the APC government, since they came to power in 2015, adopted this non-kinetic and kinetic approach and all of that. You got people who are confirmed terrorists, kidnappers, and you say we are rehabilitating them. And some of them, recently there is news out there that some of them are being considered for recruitment in the army and all of that. We just have to stop that and change our approach, you know, about insecurity, you know, tackling insecurity.
Right. Okay.
Nobody will come from outside to do it for us. Then the aspect of sharing intelligence, of course, yes. We are not a nation that is existing outside planet Earth. So we need every cooperation we can get from anywhere. But there should be sincerity from the position of the Nigerian government,
Right, okay.
which seem to be missing at the moment.
Let me ask you, Dr. Raimi, Nigeria has fought insurgency for more than 15 years. Looking beyond this week's announcement, is this country genuinely closer to ending the conflict?
Yes, we are making progress under the leadership of our president, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And let me use this opportunity to thank the President of America, Donald Trump, for the collaboration with our Nigeria government, which led to the mobilization of troops, 200 of them, into Nigeria February this year. And let me say that there are three quick things that came out of their coming. You recall that the commander of U.S. Air Force that led this U.S. Army into Nigeria has actually said that Nigeria is a large country. Nigeria is a military is capable. Nigeria has good economy and it has large population of educated people. So these are the people that are looking at us from outside. And just 3 months, they are able to achieve their specific goal, because he said why they are pulling out is not because of any acrimony, it's because they have agreed, they have achieved the objective that brought them here. So I believe that instead of demonizing our country, we should appreciate just like other people are appreciating us. As regards the question of 15 years, I believe that we are on course to exterminate the insecurity.
Let me give you the final word, because you're the one who is in the middle, and you're the one who comes across as most objective. We've discussed corruption allegations, electoral disputes, party leadership battles, presidential visions, national security. If this week tells us anything about Nigeria's direction, what is it?
Wow. Well,
let me put it another way. Which of these stories do you believe Nigerians will still be talking about in 6 months' time?
Unfortunately, Nigerians, I don't know what the research to back this. We have a lifespan of 2 weeks. We forget things basically after 2 weeks. But I think the first one, Nigeria should be bothered
very briefly
about the first one, where you can have an agency that can put billions of naira with staff and nobody knows. And that's dangerous for a country. So
the nettlesome issue of corruption.
Yes.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you very much indeed.
Thank you,
to see you again. Dr. Umar Yakubu, Dr. Taufik Raimi, and Mazin Namdi Dixon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again next week. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.